we talk about our state, I think we should talk just a little bit about 56 signers. So I would tell you, if you want to get a good feel for it, you can go to PragerU. They're doing a 56 signers of the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. It's very short. It's all AI, so it's interesting. But I thought I would share just a couple stories because they knew. I'll tell you what what my wife made me tone this down a little bit. She said, "You can't do the way you're going to describe it." But this is what that when the people signed the Declaration of Independence, they were signing on as essentially traitors to England. And the result of being a traitor to England is, and this is toned down. My wife said I can't talk about where they pull the entrails out, so I won't talk about when they pull the entrails out. It says if you were caught, they would have been hung until barely alive. Then they cut you down and drop you to the ground. Then they cut your body into quarters. That's the drawing and quartering. And boil each quarter in oil. Then the ashes are scattered through the countryside, so no one can find you. And in the meantime, while you're still living, they pull your entrails out. Am I a bit of a downer? You shouldn't know what these guys were facing. Signer Richard Stockton's home was destroyed by the British. Then he was captured. He was confined in a military prison. He was treated so brutally that it wrecked his health, and he became an invalid, and he died soon after the war. Signer John Hart escaped capture by the British, then hid in caves and fields for months. When he finally returned to his farm, his wife was dead. His farm destroyed, and all 13 of his children had been scattered by the British soldiers. They just came and scattered that family. Signer Abraham Clark's 2 sons fought in the war. Both were captured and held prisoner in a brutal British prison. Harsh conditions, and they were sometimes starved. The British offered to release Abraham's sons if he would withdraw his signature on the Declaration. Do you think he did? No. No, his son, Andrew, died in prison, and Thomas died right after the war ended. Signer Francis Lewis, his wealth was freely given to the service of his country. His home was burned down by the British. His wife, Elizabeth, was captured and held in prison with no bed, no change of clothing, not enough food. For weeks, she was released after suffering 2 years. She died soon after her release. Signer Stephen Hopkins had suffered from a stroke that's affected the right side of his body. His right hand shook so severely that he had to have a clerk write for him. His right leg was useless, but when it was his turn to sign the Declaration, he walked up dragging that foot and signed it. Well, what do you think? We don't want that to happen to anybody here. And how do we prevent that? Well, right now, in 2024, we won the most important existential election in the nation's history. You guys delivered in Yavapai County. We need you to deliver again in 2026 in the most existentially important election in the state's history. Sheriff Rhodes is right, Warren's right, Selena's right, Eli's right. The socialists were really communists. They're ready to go forward. They want to go forward. They want to take the state. They don't believe we can win the state. But I know we can win the state. So let me just tell you how I know. I'm going to give you some data points. And then we'll get to some fun stuff. I won't be so crazy. You had 11 precincts that flipped in CD2. and one in CD and one flip precinct here. So what this means when we say flip precincts, these are people who in 2022 made the mistake of their life by voting for Katie Hobbs. Those precincts won Katie Hobbs. They came back in 2024 and voted for Donald Trump, right? And so that's what gave Donald Trump. There are 133 of those precincts around the state. There are 11 of them sitting right on the border in San Luis. And those precincts help deliver the biggest margin of victory of any of the battleground states to Donald J. Trump in 2024. And they will help us deliver the victory for us in 2026. We are going to win this. And the other thing I will tell you, I get asked this one all the time. What about the independents? How do you win the independents? You're so doggone conservative. Donald Trump lost the independents by 8 points, but still won by almost 6 points in the overall election. I will tell you that the independent voter wants the same thing you and I want. They want a good economy to live in. They want fewer taxes. They want to be free. They want their law enforcement to protect them. They want to be safe. They want their kids to be educated at a good school. And they want to be able to live the American dream. They want to be able to afford to buy a house. They want to be able to afford to live in this free country. That's what the independents want. They want the same thing you and I want. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to deliver that in 2026. So I want to just tell you how we turn this around and why I need Selena and Kwang's not here. Kwang's been doing a good job talking about us and Fincham, and we need Warren. Here's why. Because when I get elected in November, we're going to actually sit down immediately, get all of those bills ready that she's vetoed. What's like 560, 580 now, something like that. We're going to get them ready so that we can start getting those passed within the first couple of weeks in January after we're sworn in. Selena's the happiest in the room. But let me just tell you what that means. We're going to go so fast, just like Donald Trump did. This is one thing we should all learn from Donald Trump. He went so fast that the Democrats got so discombobulated, they resorted to the only two things that they have. They call him names and they call us names, and then they file lawsuits. We need to have an attorney general like Warren who's going to defend us, defend our state, defend our laws, somebody I can trust who will be there, because they're going to be suing the heck out of us. But that won't slow us down, because what we're going to do then is we're going to make sure that our executive orders are ready to go. And we're going to sign those in and do away with the executive orders that Katie Hobbs has done. We will get rid of those, and then we will codify the law with the legislature and me as governor, so that the next person, they can't just willy-nilly sign an executive order, that they're going to have to fight. We're going to have our appointments ready to go. We're going to have them ready to go, so that's one of the first things that they're going to be doing is getting us our appointments and our nominations ready, so we're not dilly-dallying around. We're going to be a working legislature. And this is in the last, I think 16, 17 months, this is my 16th time to be in Yavapai County. I will continue to come to Yavapai County, not just because it's beautiful and I like it, but because we will be a working governor. I will be working governor. We'll have a great lieutenant governor who's going to help us, and we will be around the state all over, because I will be the governor for Arizona, not Maricopa County, just so you know. Now, so I started off, I was a prosecutor in Phoenix, and what we did is primarily DUIs and prosecuted domestic violence cases. That's primarily what we did. And then I went to the state legislature and I was the Senate president, and we passed balanced budgets. And when I left, we'd gone from a really tough economic environment. When I left, we had a $230 million budget surplus. And then in Congress, I've shown that you can be conservative and still get stuff done, deliver on things that benefit this great state. That's why I am pleased that, and Eli was talking about all the people that were PO'd at us. Well, a lot of them have repented of that, being so angry with us. So Donald Trump has endorsed me. That's why Charlie and Erica Kirk endorsed me. That's why 45 current and former state legislators, including Selena Kwan and Mark, have endorsed me. They want a steady leader. They know that you need a steady leader with experience. And that's why, even in our own delegation, I'm pleased that Eli, Abe Hamadeh, and Paul Gosar have endorsed me as well. This is where we're going. We are going to turn this state around, and we're at a crossroads. We either become like Colorado and California, or we become like the Arizona we know we can be. A free, strong, independent state that will lead the nation in economic growth, making sure that we set the markers down. Here's the markers we have to set down, and then I'll conclude. The federal government, and I got to tell you this story, two quick stories. My wife says I always have to tell a Donald Trump story, so I'll get one of those in. But I got to tell you that I have a piece of legislation that is really actually very important, dealing with the NGOs and how they're corrupt and how they're funneling money in. I have a bill that was scheduled to be heard last Wednesday, this Wednesday that just passed, in Judiciary Committee. It was going to be marked up, and then we were going to take it to the floor in a couple of weeks. Literally, before I was flying in, my chief of staff called and said, they want to know if they can bump your bill. And I said, well, what are they going to bump it for? Well, there's a couple of bills they really want to get going. It's very important to some members there. And I said, well, what is it? And they want to know if you will leave and not show up for the vote. I said, well, help me out here. Well, she said, this particular bill is the national mastodon. We're going to vote on making the American woolly mammoth the national mastodon. And the other one is the national fossil will be the T-Rex. And I said, oh, I know you're kidding me now. That should have been done in April. That's an April joke. She said, no, I'm serious. That's what they're doing, and they want to know if you will not come because they don't want you to speak about how bad it is. I said, well, I will be there. I'll be voting no, I'll be speaking, and I'll make sure it doesn't get a suspension vote. And she said, that's kind of what I told them I thought you would be. So that's how bad off Congress is. And in the meantime, we have a $2 trillion structural deficit every year. We're sitting just under $40 trillion in national debt. Unsustainable, absolutely unsustainable. So what is why my vision for Arizona is to restore the American dream to this state, and then to make sure that we are ready, that we have necessary food, water, power, and our economic environment to withstand the collapse that I fear might be coming at the federal government. So, on that happy note, the reason it's happy is because it's in our hands. And we can make the change. We will make the change. And we will be prepared. And when things begin to get a little rough, we know that this state will be in good shape and be able to be a leader in the nation. Not unlike Egypt and Joseph. That's where we're going to be. So God bless all of you. Thank you for being here. Let's turn out the vote. Let's build that red wall in Arizona. And let's make sure that Arizona leads the way. So thank you all for being here. Thank you so much.